Some grief does not end in the grave. Some despair does not harden with time, it grows. It takes root. And what waits on the other side doesn't wear the face of the dead out of memory, but out of hunger. Family, this is the Dread Codex. Gather close. The story begins. My name is Kieran. I no longer look at my reflection for too long. I no longer pray aloud. This is why. I grew up in Parramatta, just west of Sydney. Life was simple then. Sunday Mass, rugby league, my family's unshakable faith. My father's people were Irish Catholics. They carried their saints and sorrows like heirlooms. I believed in order, in forgiveness, in the clean straight lines of Scripture. Then Mrs. Delaney died. She lived next door, a widow who smelled like lavender and loneliness. She'd been a nurse at the old Parramatta Asylum, the one locals still called the Castle, and only in whispers. In her final months, she changed. The statues of Mary in her garden tilted inward. Her rosary beads turned the color of dried blood. And her cockatoo, a white bird she'd raised from a chick, would shriek at the western wall of her house every sunset, until its voice went raw. We found her, my dad and I. She'd hanged herself from the arched beam of her veranda, swaying gently in the hot, still air. The image is carved into me. The rope grooved into her neck. Her eyes open but empty, clouded like creek stones. That night the heat broke, and something else broke through. I woke to the sound of weeping. Not outside. Inside my room. A woman knelt at the foot of my bed, her back to me, in a white nightgown gone gray with age. Her shoulders trembled. And under the weeping, a voice, low, guttural, speaking something older than English, older than Latin. The Lord's Prayer, but unraveled, played backwards on a warped tape. Deliver us from evil became evil as from deliver. My heart punched against my ribs. Mrs. Delaney, I whispered. The weeping stopped. Her head turned. Not all the way. Just enough. Where her eye should have been was smooth, dark wood, like the grain of an old gum tree. Then it split. A thin crack opened, and from it seeped a thick amber sap. It smelled of eucalyptus and decay. She didn't move. She unfolded. One arm elongated, bones clicking like breaking sticks. Her hand, gray bark-like, reached for me. I felt 4 lines of fire slice across my chest. I screamed. My parents found me clawing at the air, 4 parallel gouges bleeding into my shirt. They called it night terrors. Shock. But the wounds were real. And they itched with a cold that made my teeth ache. For a week, nothing. Then the heat returned. And so did she. This time, she was sitting on the edge of my bed. Her nightgown was now a stained nurse's uniform, fused in places to skin like paper bark. Her hair was wild, threaded with twigs and dried leaves. And her mouth stretched into a grin that showed teeth like splintered bone. She didn't speak. She hummed. A tune I recognized, waltzing Matilda, but slowed, distorted, like a music box left in the rain. I tried to scream. No sound came. Her hand rose, fingers too long, jointed in too many places. They reached for my throat. I grabbed her wrist. It wasn't cold. It was hollow, like holding a dead branch filled with spiders. I finally choked out a sound, a raw animal noise, and she vanished. But the smell remained, damp earth, lavender, and something metallic. Like old blood. The local priest came, Father Byrne. He blessed the house, sprinkled holy water, spoke of trauma and suggestion. For a month, we had quiet. A false peace. Then, one sweltering night, my parents drove to Penrith. I was alone. The power died. Not a blackout, a swallowing. 1 second the ceiling fan was whirring, the next, silence so absolute it felt like pressure on my eardrums. I fumbled for my phone, the flashlight piercing the dark. That's when I heard it. A child's voice, singing softly from the direction of Mrs. Delaney's house. Once a jolly swagman, hamped by a billabong. I edged toward the shared wall, my light trembling. Hello. The singing stopped. Then a whisper right in my ear, warm and wet. Kieran. I spun. My light caught something in the hallway mirror. Not behind me. Inside the glass. Mrs. Delaney's face, pressed against the other side of the reflection, her wooden eye weeping sap, her bone teeth gnawing at the surface as if trying to chew through. I ran. I barricaded myself in the bathroom, back against the door, phone light shaking. That's when the taps turned on. Both of them. Full blast. But what came out wasn't water. It was thick, slow, amber sap. It filled the sink, dripped onto the tiles with a soft pat pat pat, and began to pool toward my feet. I heard laughter then. Not from the hall. From inside the walls. A dry, rattling chuckle, like branches scraping tin. When my parents returned, I was curled on the bathroom floor, the sap gone, the taps dry. They found the main power switch in the laundry flipped off. Dad's patience was gone. He took me to a doctor, then a therapist. I saw the doubt in his eyes, the shame. The final night, I saw her outside. She was standing in the dead coral tree between our houses, her form woven into the branches, her head tilted at an impossible angle. She wasn't looking at me. She was looking at my window. And she was holding something, a small shadowy shape that squirmed. It looked like a possum. But its cries were all wrong. They sounded like a baby. I didn't scream. I couldn't. I just watched as she lifted the shape to her mouth and bit. There was no blood. Only a dry, cracking sound. Then she turned her wooden eye toward me and smiled. The next morning, Dad didn't speak. He just drove. We went west into the Blue Mountains until the road became gravel, then dirt. We stopped at a shack nestled in a cold, misty gully. No electricity. No signal. An old man waited on the porch. Brother Jera. Not a priest. Something older. A kariki, a keeper. His eyes were the color of river stones, and he moved like smoke. "You brought the shadow with you," he said, before we'd even spoken. "It's not in your house anymore, son. It's in your breath." That night, we stood in a circle of stones behind his shack. Brother Jera began to chant, not in Latin, but in a language that sounded like wind over rock. The ground beneath us grew cold, colder than winter. She appeared not from the trees, but from the earth. Rising like a pale root from the soil, her form flickering between misses. Delaney and something else, something taller, thinner, all knots and joints. Her voice was the sound of splitting timber. "You left me alone in the dark, Kieran. You all did. Let me in. I'm so cold." Brother Jera gave me 2 river stones, worn smooth. "Hold these. Don't drop them." I clutched the stones. She drifted closer, her bark-like fingers stretching toward my face. The moment before she touched me, the world went black. What happened next, I know only from my father. He said my body went stiff. My head tilted back, and when I spoke, it was with a voice that was not mine, a dry, rasping thing that smelled of bushfire. "This flesh is thin. This heart is soft. I will wear him. I will walk in his sun." Brother Jera didn't flinch. He held up a small smoked glass bottle sealed with wax. "You have no name here," he said. The thing inside me laughed, a sound like dead leaves crushed in a fist. "I am the memory this land refuses to bury." It lunged, not at Jera but at my father. My body moved with a speed that wasn't human, fingers clawing toward his eyes. But Brother Jera was faster. He threw a handful of fine red dust, ground ochre, into my face. The thing shrieked. My body convulsed, and from my mouth poured not smoke, but a thick dark sap that coiled in the air like a serpent. It fought, thrashing, trying to reform, a woman, a tree, a twisted cross. But Brother Jera chanted, and the sap was drawn toward the bottle, screaming in a language that hurt my father's ears to hear. With a final wet gasp, it was gone. Jera sealed the bottle with a gum leaf and a drop of his own blood. I woke on the cold ground, vomiting dirt. I remembered only fragments, roots growing through my ribs, a choir singing hymns in reverse, and Mrs. Delaney's voice, not angry but grateful. "Thank you for letting me in." We returned to Parramatta. We moved houses. We tried to forget. Then, last summer, during a heat wave, the air conditioning died. I went down to the garage to check the breaker. There, in the corner, stood Mrs. Delaney's old rocking chair. We'd left it behind. We hadn't brought it. But it was there, rocking. Slowly. Empty. And on the seat lay a single fresh gum leaf, dripping with amber sap. From the shadows beneath the workbench, a voice whispered, not hers, but many, layered into one dry, rustling chorus. "You don't have to be lonely, Kieran. We saved a place for you. The tree is always growing." I stood there, frozen, the smell of eucalyptus and decay filling my lungs. And I understood then, with a calm that felt like falling. She was never the one who needed saving. I was. This is not a ghost story. It is an infection. The most profound horrors are not those that invade from outside. They are those that grow from within, from grief left untended, from guilt left to fester in the sun. They wear familiar faces to make you welcome them. They use your faith as a ladder to climb into your soul. So listen closely, family. If you ever feel a sorrow that seems to root in your chest, if you hear a familiar song played just a little too slow, if you see the face of someone you loved staring back from a mirror with eyes that are not their own, do not pray. Run. Some spirits do not haunt places. They haunt memories. And some invitations are not written in ink, but in sap. They never wash off. If you have a story that has taken root in you, send it to contact.thedreadcodex@gmail.com. Your truth becomes our tale. Your likes and comments keep these stories alive. Until next time, may your path be clear. May your heart be your own. Good night.